General considerations. Well, clinical psychology and psychiatry has just been dominated by a focus on mental illness and psychopathology, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that because there are lots of people who are suffering terribly from a host of different kinds of psychological problems. But there's what's rarely addressed in most of these programs, looking at models of emotional health, resiliency. How is it that normal people go through all kinds of horrible things and they get affected by this sometimes, they get driven to their knees, they have scars from this, but they get back up and they keep on living. And I tell my graduate students, I said, listen, before we start talking about mental illness and psychopathology, let's try to get really clear about emotional health and the kinds of things that people have working for them, psychological resources all the way from intrapsychic, biological, interpersonal, spiritual resources. Because the vast majority of people who go through life and suffer don't get psychiatric treatment. Many people are broken and ruined by life experiences, but the majority of people actually aren't. An enormous amount of human resiliency. So I think understanding about what it is that we can do as human beings to do our best getting through difficult life circumstances. Why focus on neurobiology? Well, one thing is I like talking about this. This is a picture of me, showing a brain to my graduate students. Okay. Now, actually, this is my more serious side. Okay. But this positive emotions, reward circuits. Well, ventral tegmentum nucleus accumbens striatum circuit here. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. It's been long considered to be part of the pleasure circuits in the brain. There's this guy by the name of Robert Heath, infamous psychiatrist at the Louisiana State Hospital back in the early 1960s. Back then they did all kinds of horrible things to mental patients because they didn't have any rights. And one thing they did is they said, well, let's just stick some electrodes in their brains to see what happens. And I don't think this is long before the whole idea about informed consent was around. But one thing Heath did is he stuck electrodes into this circuit, okay? And there's this particular part of the circuit, you can see right here, it's called nucleus accumbens. And so he stuck an electrode in there in these mental patients. And I've seen videos where they show these patients, they interview them, and he's saying, so anyway, how do you like the electrode you got recently? And this woman goes, I like it a lot. And she says, let me show you, Preston. Oh man, I used to have. If we had time, I would show you a video. She's liking it more than anybody ought to. Okay, and so what it made it seem like is, oh wait a minute, if you turn on the nucleus accumbens, then that must be the pleasure center. Okay, well, not exactly. These patients would say they feel real sexual when they stimulate it, but they never had an orgasm. It's looking more and more and more like the nucleus accumbens, and dopamine, which is the primary neurotransmitter that activates this, is not actually the molecule or the brain structure of pleasure per se. It's the anticipation of something, okay? I don't know who originally said this, but the hunt is sweeter than the kill. And not being a hunter, I'm not sure that, talking about Easter egg hunts maybe, I don't know. But anyway, but when people say, I like doing something, well, people do hunt or fish or just, whatever. But a lot of times what we describe as something is fun or pleasurable, well, part of it is anticipating. I said, God, I'm going to go to Disneyland. I was thinking about that ahead of time and that sort of thing. There's pleasure per se, but then also part of pleasure many times is relief from withdrawal symptoms. Okay, so if a person smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and they hold off smoking a little bit and they start getting antsy and everything, they go into nicotine withdrawal. Man, it feels good. That's not that the nicotine feels good as much as it is combating the withdrawal symptom. Also, people can feel good when they eat something, smoke something, do something, look at something beautiful that at least temporarily reduces suffering. It could be physical pain, it could be negative emotions, and so forth.